had to think about it like, damn, we not family no more.
Yep, and unfortunately, a big part of this is the fact that we've done away with many aspects of the culture that made us feel like a family. And I'm going to break that down, but before I do, we got to factor in a few things. Now, for one, this new generation is the first generation to not expect to have the traditional big mama or grandma relationship. The millennials, we were the last generation to have that, and we were the last generation who were raised with the idea of respecting elders as a principle. You know, it's an option for these kids. It wasn't an option for us. And I get why we push back against it, because just because you're older doesn't make you a good person. And a lot of the time, older people have a hard time respecting people who are younger. They don't feel like they have to, which is toxic. So I see why we've kind of pushed back. But I think that in losing that connection and doing away with that expectation, we've lost that connection to our elders. Like, these kids don't have elders the way that we had elders. They don't have the traditional grandma and big mama. They have grandmas. You know, they have grandpas who date people their age. They have grandparents who are still working and still young in the mind. And I'm not shaming them for that, because I think a lot of them probably are having fun later in life because they were expected to be adults as children. They were given responsibilities that they shouldn't have had as a child, you know, having to raise their siblings and stuff. But it's one big problem, but it's caused by a bunch of different generational factors. And let me get into that. So I'm a millennial. Millennials and Gen X, we were mostly raised by baby boomers, and I won't vilify them as an entire group, but I will say that many of them were emotionally inept. You know, they focus so much on providing the roof over your head, the food on the table, the clothes on your back. And a lot of them subscribe to the belief that children are meant to be seen and not heard. You know, you stay in a child's place. You spare the rod, you spoil the child. They didn't invest in their children in an emotional way. They didn't know how to show them love, support, and affection in the way that they needed. And their children, you know, because generations evolved, they realized that they were lacking that. So they made a decision when they had children that they were going to do the opposite. But unfortunately, one extreme to another extreme is still extreme. You know, you need boundaries, you need balance. And they didn't have that. So they took the approach that, hey, I wasn't allowed to speak up, so my kid's going to be allowed to speak their mind. Understand the mentality behind that, but potential problem. Or, I'm not going to make my kid work hard for everything the way that I had to, because they didn't ask to be here and I didn't ask to be here. That's coming from an unhealed place, because you're creating more of a problem. You're creating a lack of structure with your own children if you're not imposing boundaries. I was always raised and taught that I could speak my mind, but I had to use tact. That taught me how to articulate my feelings, how to hold back and assess my emotions, and articulate it in a way that was still respectful. These kids don't do that. And I'll tell you, as someone who works in education, it's not uncommon for a parent to come and lash out at you when you make them aware of their child's behavior. They immediately go into defense mode and protective mode, because I think that a lot of them didn't feel protected as children, and they perceive that as an attack. So it triggers their mama bear instincts, you know? And I get the psychology behind it, but we've just created a bigger problem. And when you factor those things into the fact that we live in this transactional society, you can kind of see why these shifts are taking place, because nobody does anything with the expectation of just doing a good thing. Everything has reciprocity attached to it. If I do this for you, you do something for me. Or I'm going to put this favor in my back pocket, so in the event that I need you, I got you. You know, we use it as leverage. And that's unfortunate. And I think that in an effort to fix the toxic aspects of our culture, we've created new problems, and we've done away with the cultural aspects that made us feel like a family, because we were all raised by villages. We had our aunts, uncles, grandparents, our parents, everybody raised us, and they were main characters. These kids don't have that, because in doing away with the village mentality, we've done away with the village. And that's unfortunately why we're here now.